In speedrunning, change is everything. New skips, new strategies and new ways to save time. And BeamNG is well known for it, with constant stream of updates to maps, overhauls for cars and of course, bug fixes. And speedrunners spend a lot of time looking through patch notes, finding what changed and how this can be exploited in actual runs. But today I want to talk about something truly exceptional, especially in the environment of constant evolution. A map that was mostly untouched for over 5 years and the time trial on it, the Big 8. This time trial has remained completely untouched over the years. The only thing that has changed is the players. With unique tunes and bold tactics, they have fought to shave off even a tenth of a second. In its 5-year history, the record has dropped by a total of 6 seconds. So let's dive in and see why this track has been such a battleground and how the fastest players have fought to conquer it. The Big 8, set in the Derby Arenas map, isn't actually an 8, but it does resemble an infinity symbol. It consists of 7 checkpoints and a combination of asphalt and dirt. All in all, this map looks very simple, deceptively simple. And as with everything in BeamNG, that's only true until you actually try to clear it, especially at high speeds. The moment you hit the track, everything makes sense. Right at the start, you are met with a hill, one of 2 on this 1-minute map. And this first jump is a brutal speed check. The only way to go fast is to go smooth. Landing matters. The wrong line here means a broken suspension. Next is a short, straight asphalt section leading into another dirt hill and yet another jump. However, this one is different, it leads directly into a turn. Just like the previous jump, positioning the car properly before the jump is crucial. Then comes another hill, followed by a jump straight into a drift corner. Same as before, but with even less time to react. One more jump after that, the final one. It's longer than the previous jumps and usually much harder. After that, it's one last turn to the finish. In the 5-year history of this trial, many players have succeeded in conquering. So let's take a closer look at the speedrunning history and how runners have managed to tame this unchanging, skill-based challenge. The history began with Bonsly, the first player to publish a record. His spawn point was far behind the normal start position. This is called a rolling start and it's widely used in BeamNG speedrunning. It's allowed by the rules and provides a generous starting space to gather speed. Bonsly used the sunburst and as you can clearly see, this was a very early speedrunning setup with a lot of unnecessary weight. Lights, seats and windows. All of this influenced the outcome. So let's take a closer look at his record. Bonsly started slow, with an unoptimal line. He was lacking the speed needed for the first jump. This is a great moment to explain a key aspect of this track. These jumps act as natural speed checks. If you go too slow, you will lose time on the path to the next jump. A car that jumps perfectly and lands smoothly can save tenths of a second per jump. And there are 4 of them. But back to the run. Since Bonsly played it safe with lower speed to minimize damage, he landed on top of the hill instead of the slope ahead. The next jump was much better, just fast enough to land smoothly and transition into the turn. Since his car was far from the optimized beasts we see today, he had to take the dirt turn much slower. Still, he navigated it cleanly and set up for the next jump. After another clean jump and turn, he faced the hardest part, a jump that could easily destroy the car. He slowed down a bit too much, leading into a rather awkward flight pattern, but he still landed smoothly. After one more turn, he set the first record on this map, 39.4 seconds. This record was far from perfect, and just 20 days later it was beaten by Airwreck, who saved a full second using the same car, but with a completely different tuning setup. As expected, he removed unnecessary weight and upgraded the engine to better suit the fast-paced nature of this track. He added a turbo, an ECU, and, of course, wide rally wheels. The difference in speed was obvious from the start. Airwreck took a wide approach into the first hill to gather more speed, managing to jump and land smoothly on the other side. With a more powerful engine and less weight, he pushed the limits, slowing down only at the last moment before takeoff. He executed this perfectly on the second jump, while also setting up for the turn. However, that extra speed was hard to control. In fact, the turn right after the jump nearly ruined his run. Let's get a deeper look into corners on this track. Each of these turns is fairly easy at low speeds, but becomes incredibly tricky when you are going too fast. It's funny, because they're typical normal corners, just tilted. Yet at 150 km or more, it's easy to lose traction and fly off the track. This is made even harder by the uneven terrain and jumps leading into them. But despite the difficulty, it's still faster to take the outside line. Drifting here is a great way to maintain momentum. The interesting thing about these turns is how they feel. They can be split into three parts: entrance, middle section and exit. First part is straightforward. If it's taken straight without drifting and with high speed, the car will lose grip and slam into the nearest steel tree. The middle section is tricky, it's flat, and a lot of players would try to gain even more speed here. But then, suddenly, the turn tightens. That's where most runners fail. RI nearly did too, but he managed to stabilize. That close call didn't shake him, and the rest of his run was smooth, aside from a slight problem at the final corner. That mistake probably cost him a tenth of a second, but he still came out on top with a final time of 38.3 seconds, saving a full second. But just 7 days later, Serzari joined the race. And when that happens, one thing is certain: world records will be broken. The FCV4v2 had just been introduced and he wanted to see what it could do on this track. His run was unique in two ways. First, he ran with almost no fuel, saving around 50 kilos of weight to improve overall speed. Second, he tried to reduce airtime as much as possible. Since cars don't accelerate in the air, this strategy backfired slightly with less than optimal landings on the second and fourth jumps. But even with those issues, he still managed to improve the record. He shaved off 0.4 seconds, bringing the time down to sub 38. For nearly 4 months, the leaderboard stayed untouched, until another legendary runner stepped into the spotlight. FAK is widely known in the BeamNG speedrunning community as an asphalt specialist. After a year-long absence, he still holds records on many asphalt-only maps. But this track was different. Half of it was dirt. Like Serzari, he used the FCV4v2, but in an unexpected way. FAK took advantage of the car's superior durability, launching into jumps at high speed and landing aggressively, except for the final jump, where he aimed for the smoothest landing possible. This risky strategy paid off, and he set a new record of 37.4 seconds, saving off another 3/10. A whole 2 seconds were shaved off in a year. But even after that breakthrough, the competition wasn't over. 9 months and 9 days later, a new challenger stepped up, Skeel, and she published the first run of 2021 on this map. And what a run it was! For starters, she chose the Hirochi SBR4 over the Sunburst or Vivas, primarily for its sheer horsepower. Combined with the GTRX Aero kit, it was a beast on the course. Mind you, this was before the Scintilla was introduced. Her run was well executed, with only minor mistakes here and there. But the biggest one was on the very first jump. While the SBR4 is a tough vehicle, it's far from being on the level of the Vivas. This made the first jump incredibly risky, but also well planned. Landing flat on the road would have been a complete disaster, but a slight angle at the end saved both the car and the run. However, the exit from the first corner was rough, and the line into the third jump was far from perfect. But even with those minor issues, this run was exceptionally well done. And by using the most powerful car available at the time, Skeel managed to set a new record for this map, a whopping 36.3 seconds, a full second faster than the previous record. But the massive time save did not go unnoticed by top players. Just 3 months later, FAK managed to surpass it with an improved 36.084 run. He recognized the power of the SBR4 and refined the strategy, and his run was almost perfect. The first jump was clean, as was the second, but his exit from the turn was horrible. He attempted to take it at full speed, despite its steep angle, and it nearly cost him the run. Because of this mistake, he didn't have enough time to properly set up for the next jump, and his landing after the third jump was far from ideal. Yet, even with those issues, he managed to set a new record and save nearly 3/10. That record stood for nearly a year, until the middle of 2022, when Kimorasa took his shot. With his own unique SBR4 tune, he managed to beat the previous record and his run was incredible. Clean jumps, even cleaner turns, except for the last one. Unfortunately, he misjudged his speed, which left the car unsettled and forced him to correct it as fast as possible. And even though that mistake almost cost him the world record, he still got it. But just to put things in perspective, this nearly flawless run with just one mistake was only 9 thousandths faster, with the final time being 36.075. It was bound to be broken sooner or later, and just 2 months later it was, by none other than FAK. He returned with version 2.0 of his SBR4 tune, ready to deliver the perfect run, and he almost did. Clean jumps, very clean turns, only 2 mistakes, the exit of the first turn and the last jump. He lost a bit of traction exiting that corner, which cost him speed, and on maps like this, even losing a single kilometer or mile per hour matters. Then, on the final turn, he didn't have enough speed to perform a clean jump. This cost him another 2/10. But even with those setbacks, he crushed the previous record, setting a new time of 35.69. With nearly 4/10 safe, the 36-second barrier was officially broken. That was an incredible time until the update, the one that introduced the Scintilla. This monster of a car is perfect for anything that doesn't involve rough terrain. But even on rough terrain, with a bit of luck, it can perform exceptionally well. And Hyku, a master of both the Scintilla and off-roading, took on the challenge of destroying the Big 8. His rally tune, already proven on many rally maps, was incredibly fragile. One mistake on these jumps and the car would be completely destroyed. Yet Hyku managed to clear the jump smoothly, and with the Scintilla's superior acceleration and power, he flew through the first 2/3 of the map. But the last section took its toll. One mistake led to another. He overjumped. Too much airtime and a terrible landing. Not in terms of damage, but in terms of line. His entrance into the turn was horrible, and he lost a significant amount of time. But even with those mistakes, the combination of Hyku's skill and the Scintilla's sheer power saved nearly a full second on an already optimized track. With a final time of 34.8, his run took the world record and shattered another second barrier. And that could have been it. A nearly perfect optimized run. A couple of mistakes, sure, but what could beat the Scintilla? Only another Scintilla, right? Well, no. FAK had been working in the shadows, crafting a beast of a vehicle, an extreme modification of SBR4, and in 7 months, by mid-2023, he was ready, and he delivered. The perfect run. No mistakes, something that no sane player would dare to challenge. With a final time of 34.7, he reclaimed the world record by nearly 100. This was the run, a record that would stay. But the game didn't slow down. Patch after patch, new cars, new maps, new runners, everything was evolving. Except the map and the strategy. Everything seemed obvious. How to jump, how to turn, how to optimize. There were no skips, just pure, skillful driving. Or was there? That was the question posed by one runner, someone who could be called an innovator in BeamNG speedrunning. Vulp. He had already beaten many maps using JTO boosters, but this one was proven to be the hardest yet. Not because it was long or difficult to drive, but because of the skip. A skip that started as a joke. A straight flight from the first jump, landing smoothly on the slope of the second. Nearly impossible, and even if you did land it, the car would be completely destroyed. And to make things worse, the car in question was a D-series JTO. No roll cage, no reinforcements, nothing to protect against the insane landing impact. And even then, you'd need to start drifting immediately or suffer the consequences. But skip is only part of the problem. Remember, this is D-series JTO, and that means only 12 seconds of fuel. Nearly a quarter of it would be spent on the skip alone. Wasting fuel was a serious risk, adding yet another layer of challenge to this already demanding track. And since this skip was clearly a joke and never would have been possible, just after a couple of attempts, Vulp got it working. Granted, this was more RNG than consistent setup, he still managed to get the perfect skip, but messed up the next turn. Still, it was incredible, and after 1 year and 7 months, the record was broken again, with a time of 34.3, saving almost 4/10. But now all jokes were over, and the moment Airwreck saw Vulp's run, he had to try. The next day he spent 10 hours straight grinding, until either he or the map gave in. And on his 10th hour, he finally managed to get a fast run. His jump was barely successful. Any more speed and the suspension would have been obliterated. He took the perfect turn, set up for the second jump, and despite having 20% less fuel than Vulp, he managed to carry more speed. After 2 more perfect jumps, he was ready to finish, except he made a mistake. His final line was horrible, but somehow he had just enough jet fuel left to finish cleanly. With a final time of 34.3, he saved 14,000. And that's where everything could have stopped, if not for one runner who was fascinated by this map. Vulp decided to perfect his line into jump, and he managed to do it in 2 months. After grinding for many hours, he got very risky run, starting with a skip that almost broke the car in half. That being said, line here was more than perfect, and the problem was only with speed. After that and a couple smooth jumps and turns, he was met with final boss, long jump. The runner went all in with an aggressive approach, which almost ended his attempt. But whether by luck or skill, the car remained intact, with all its wheels still attached. And Vulp managed to finish without issues, and after 2 months set a new record by saving another 400s. But then, in just a couple of hours, Airwreck got this run.
Bam! That's it! That's it! Boom! Oh, crazy run.
Turns out he saw Vulp's run and perfected his line, granting this rather unreal jump something that resembles consistency, and it all due to activation of jet. You see, before it was used up until the jump and even a little bit mid-air, and now runners boost before the jump and release, making the car not only jump not as far up in the air, but also more predictable. Perfect speed for this is around 250 km, and uphill drive should be done from left to right to set up for landing on the next downhill. His landing was still not perfect, and he also lost control on the landing of the third jump. Even with all of this, his run was really good, and he managed to break 1 more second on this map. And that's where the run stands today. But is it the limit? Not quite. Talking to both J2 runners, it's clear, mid or even low 33 is possible if someone insane enough can pull off perfect skip with perfect fuel management and ideal lines, maybe even sub 33. But that's probably a bit too unrealistic. Will it be attempted? Who knows, but one thing is clear, the current world record is beatable. If you can nail the skip, manage fuel and drive cleanly, you can do it. So go try. I know you can. Thank you for watching. Special thanks to Airwreck and Vulp for their help. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video so more people can see it. And I'll see you all soon.